Welcome to the Poti Academy. My name is Amisha Palaso, and in today's video, we are going to start with a new chapter, Sound of Class 8. So now, when I say the term sound, what do we basically understand? For us, sound is listening to any kind of voice or some kind of noise that reaches our ear when we are surrounded by many sounds around us. Now currently I'll be surrounded by so many sounds, like even the tiniest out of tiniest sound we can hear. So now, how do you know that a period is over in your school? So basically we have school bells that ring. So through that we know that a certain period is over. You come to know easily that someone is at your door when he knocks or you hear the sound of the doorbell. So now when somebody is at your door, either they knock on the door, through that sound you come to know, or they ring the bell. So you hear the bell sound. So in that case, you know that somebody is standing outside your door. Most of the time, you can make out that someone is approaching you by just hearing the footsteps. Now, say you are in a very quiet area, and in that case, you can clearly hear the footsteps of any person approaching you. You might have played a game called hide and seek. In this game, a person is blindfolded and has to catch the remaining players. So now, when your one sense is turned off, say your eyes are shut, there's a cloth over your eyes. So in that case, how do you know that somebody is there besides you, or you have to find somebody? How do you judge? On what basis do you judge? That is obviously hearing. You try to hear the slightest out of slightest noise that they make. How is the blindfolded person able to guess which player is closest to her? So that is by the sound. Sound plays an important role in our lives. It helps us to communicate with one another. We hear a variety of sounds in our surroundings. So sound is very important. If there's no sound, if you don't have a voice, then how are you even going to speak to somebody? How will somebody even hear what you're saying? So in that case, sound is very important. In the music room of your school, you hear the sounds produced by musical instruments like flute, tabla, harmonium, etc. So all of these musical instruments, they produce sounds. How is sound produced? How does it travel from one place to another? How do we hear sound? Why are some sounds louder than the others? We shall discuss such questions in the chapter. So now all of these questions are going to be answered in this chapter. So now sound is produced by vibrating bodies. So what do we understand? So now when a sound is being produced, okay, you can hear just the sound, but the source of the sound also tends to vibrate. That vibration is what causes the sound production. Okay, so touch the school bell when not in use. What do you feel? Again, touch it when producing sound. Can you feel it vibrating? So now, when you have your school bell, so you should try touching it when it is not ringing or when somebody is not hitting it. So in that case, you won't feel any vibration. But the moment it is ringing or it is producing sound and you try to touch it, you'll feel the vibrations in your arm. So now in that case, to understand that more easily, say you have a empty vessel, a metal vessel, okay, and you try to hit it with a stick, okay. So when you hit it, you will produce some noise, some kind of loud noise will be produced, because obviously you are hitting something that is metallic in nature. So in that case, if you try to touch that utensil, you will also realize that there is some kind of vibration that is happening. Okay, so now as you have learned in class 7, the to and for or back and forth motion of an object is called vibration. So when a object is moving back and forth, so that motion is known as vibration. Now this motion won't be seen visibly in all the objects. In some objects you'll see, say you have a guitar now. When you look at the guitar strings, if you try to pull one of the string, there will be some sound that will be produced, but you'll also see that that string is moving back and forth. So that is the vibration. In that case, you will see it. But say you have your school bell. In that case, you won't see it. You'll have to feel it, because that back and forth motion which is there, it is so less that you cannot see it with your eyes. We see that a vibrating object produces sound. In some cases, the vibrations are easily visible to us, but in most cases, their amplitude is so small that we cannot see them. However, we can feel them. So many of you might have seen manjira. So now manjira is these two metal plates which are like hit together to produce some kind of sound. Then ghatam is over here. This is like a pot kind of thing, and the mud pots and the kartal. Now kartal is that thing. It has a wooden plate like, and in between it has some discs like. So when you hit it with each other, it makes that sound. These musical instruments are commonly used in many parts of our country. These instruments are simply beaten or struck. Can you name a few other musical instruments of this type? So in these musical instruments, they are simply hit onto each other to produce some kind of sound. Now, sound produced by humans. Now, this was the sound of various instruments or things around us. Now, let's see, talk about the sound produced by humans. Speak loudly for a while or sing a song or buzz like a bee. Put your hand on your throat as shown in figure 10.8. Do you feel any vibrations? So now what they are saying is, as I'm speaking, if I place my hand here, right, under my neck, at this point, I can feel the vibrations over here. You can actually feel, you can place your hand over here and you can feel the vibrations that occur here. So which tells us that even in human beings, to produce sound, there is some kind of vibrations that are happening at our throat. Now, in humans, the sound is produced by the voice box or the larynx. Put your fingers on the throat and find a hard bump that seems to move when you swallow. So, if you place your fingers somewhere around here on your throat and you try to swallow, you can feel a bump kind of thing that is moving over here. So, okay, that is the voice box or the larynx. This part of the body is known as the voice box. It is at the upper end of the windpipe. So now my windpipe will somewhere start from here, and that larynx is, or the voice box is somewhere here. It is at the upper end of the windpipe. The two vocal cords are stretched across the voice box or larynx in such a way that it leaves a narrow slit between them for passage of air. Now when we speak about vocal cords, if you try opening your mouth wide, at the end of your mouth, at the back of your throat, you will see like two string like structures which are present on either side. They form a wheel kind of a structure at the back of your throat. Those are your vocal cords. Okay, so now these vocal cords, they are stretched across the voice box. So if our voice box is here, those vocal cords which are present at the back, they are stretched throughout or across the voice box in such a way, because they are now in a V kind of position, it leaves a very narrow slit in between. Like there's a very tiny or a narrow gap in between which lets the air pass through it. So when the lungs force air through the slit, the vocal cords vibrate. So now every time you breathe in or when you try to speak, you are forcing in some air inside your throat. So that time those vocal cords which are there, they vibrate and they produce the sound. So the muscle attached to the vocal cords can make the cords tight or loose. When the vocal cords are tight and thin, the quality of the type or quality of voice is different from that when they are loose and thick. So now these vocal cords which are here, they have some kind of muscles that are attached over there. So when you speak, those muscles, they stretch, and sometimes they are in relaxed state, sometimes they are thick and tight, and sometimes they are loose and thin. So based on that concept, then the voice also varies in tone. Now moving ahead, sound needs a medium for propagation. Now what do we understand when we say that? So now when you call up your friend who is standing at a distance, your friend is able to hear your voice. How does the sound propagate or travel to her? So now if you are saying, if you are in an open area and you try to shout out or call out to your friend who is standing at a quite a distance from you, and your friend is still able to hear you. So now how does that sound travel to her? Now to understand that, let's take an example. Take a metal or a glass tumbler. Make sure that it is dry. Place a cell phone in it. Remember that the cell phone must not be kept in water. Ask your friend to give a ring on this cell phone from another cell phone. Listen to the ring carefully. Now surround the rim of the tumbler with your hands. Put your mouth on the opening between your hands. Indicate to your friend to give a ring again. Listen to the ring while sucking air from the tumbler. Does the sound become fainter or as you suck air? Remove the tumbler from your mouth. Does the sound become louder again? So basically you have to first keep the phone in open tumbler and let your friend give you a ring. In that case the sound will be quite louder. But when you try to suppress the air over there and suck in the air over there which is there, you will hear a very faint sound. So now what do we understand from this experiment? So can you think of an explanation? Is it possible that the decreasing amount of air in the tumbler had something to do with the decreasing loudness of the ring? Yes. So indeed, if you had been able to suck all the air in the tumbler, you will not listen any sound. Actually, sound needs a medium to travel. So now for sound to travel, there has to be some kind of medium. So in that tumbler, when the tumbler was open, in that case, there was some kind of air that was present in it. And that air was the medium for that sound to travel. But the minute you shut it and you sucked in all of the air, you could hear very faint sound. That was because you sucked out all the air from there, creating a vacuum. When air has been removed completely from a vessel, it is said that there is a vacuum in the vessel. The sound cannot travel through a vacuum. So in that case, that is why we could hear very faint sound, because we sucked in all the air and we created a vacuum over there. There was no medium for the sound to propagate. So now, does sound travel in liquid? So now, say you are in a swimming pool and you try to clap underneath the swimming pool, or sorry, underneath the water, you will hear that you cannot hear a clap. You cannot hear that sound. So that indicates that sound cannot travel in liquids as well. Let us find out if some sound can travel through solids also. So now in this case what they have done is they have taken a meter scale, okay, two of them, and one fellow has held it close to his ears and the other one is just trying to make some sound, scratching it or slightly hitting it. So the person who's holding the meter scale near his ears is actually able to hear that scratching sound. But now say those two persons are there and I am there at a distance, not very big distance. I'm just standing close by to them. But the meter scale is with the other fellow. So in that case, if you ask the fellow who's having the meter scale near his ears, if he can hear the sound, he will be able to hear the sound. But if you ask me if I'm able to hear the sound, I won't be able to hear the sound. So that tells us that sound can also travel through solids. So now if say if one of your friend, you tell him to lean on the table and keep his ears on the table and you try to knock on this thing, the sound will travel over there and the other person will be able to hear it. We find that sound can travel through wood or metal. In fact, sound can travel through any solid. You can perform interesting activities to show that sound can also travel through strings. So now as kids we have done those toy telephones wherein you take a cup, you tie a string to it and there's another cup at the other end. So then one person holds it at their mouth, one person holds it at their ears. So in that case the person speaking in the cup is actually able to hear what the other person is saying. So that proves that sound can also travel through strings. Now, we hear sounds through our ears. So the shape of the outer part of the ear is like a funnel. So now if we see our ear, the outer part which is there right here, it is shaped like a funnel. Like the opening is bigger but inside it narrows down. So when the sound enters it, it travels down a canal at the end of which there is a thin stretched membrane. It is called the eardrum. So now at the outer part, when we see a ear, it is quite broad. It is like a funnel. So and on the outer edge, it is quite big, but then it narrows down. So now when the sound enters it, it travels down through a canal like at the end which there is a thin stretched membrane, and that membrane is called as the eardrum. So it performs an important function. To understand what the eardrum does, let us build a tin can model of the eardrum. So in this case, what they have done is they have taken a plastic bottle, cut it into half, and they have placed on the open edge, they have placed a balloon or rubber balloon that is stretched. So when they try to speak, okay, when they try to speak from the bottom, you'll see that, and they place some kind of grains over that. Okay, so when he tries to speak from the other opening, you'll see that the grains start jumping up and down. In short, they are vibrating. So the eardrum is like a stretched rubber sheet. Sound vibrations make the eardrum vibrate. So now when a sound hits onto our eardrum basically vibrates. So the eardrum sends vibration to the inner ear. From there, the signal goes to the brain. That is how we hear. So see here, this yellow part, that is the eardrum. So the sound enters from here. This is the narrow canal that it goes through, and there are vibrations that are produced then on this eardrum. From here, they further move to the inner ear, where from where then further these signals go on to the brain, and that is how then we can hear. Okay, so in today's video, we learned what are the different kinds of sounds we can hear, uh, uh, what are the how sound is produced by vibrating bodies. Then we learned what are the mediums for propagation of these sounds, and also we learned about sound produced by human ears. So thank you so much for watching today's video. Please don't forget to share, like and subscribe to the Bodhi Academy.